Hey everyone, my name is Rishabh Jain. I'm the founder of Confetti Design Studios, India's #1 design agency for FMCG brands. And in this video, we're going to take you through the complete naming framework that we take our clients through to help them come up with the brand name, which is iconic, memorable, and can stand the test of time. So through this framework, you can actually do it for your own brand. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So without any further ado, let's jump straight into this. Now, the brand naming framework. Now, this framework can be summarized with this diagram, this complete flowchart. However, we're going to start at the very top with step number 1. At this stage, it's really necessary to understand what made you start your FMCG brand, your retail brand in the first place. What is your why? Because at the end of it, this becomes a key driver to decide what do you want to convey through your brand name. So it's really necessary to start with your why. So for example, maybe you want to pay respect. So if you don't know, the brand Tesla actually is the last name of the scientist Nicholas Tesla. Or through your brand name, do you want to talk about your legacy? For example, Cadbury, which is the last name of the family which started the complete Cadbury enterprise. Or do you simply want to talk about your products? For example, Netflix. So internet and Flix, which is short for movies. So you can see how it actually starts with what do you want to convey through your brand name? Do you want to pay respect? Do you want to talk about your legacy? Do you want to talk about your product? What is your why? And once you have done that, then we'll move on to step 2, which is map out your competitors' brand names. Now, just like branding has a step called competitive analysis, even brand naming has a step which is related to your competitors. At this stage, what we do, we take a look at all of your competitors and categorize their names into different chunks. And to do that, we have a list of what those 7 chunks are. So at stage 2, what you have to simply do, write down the list of all of your competitors, your 10, 15, 20, whoever are your competitors, and start putting them under all of these 7 buckets. Now, the question is, what are these 7 buckets? So this is what they are. So it is eponymous, descriptive, acronym, suggestive, associative, non-English, and abstract. So a quick summary I'll give you for these ones as well. So eponymous brands are brands which are derived from the person or people or family that started that brand. So you can think of Adidas or Burberry or Disney. So Disney, for example, was founded by Walt Disney. Adidas is by Adolf Dassler, if I'm not wrong. So eponymous brands are these brands. Descriptive brands or descriptive names are simply the names which suggest what that company does. So American Airlines, The Weather Channel, Hotels.com. In India, you can think of brands like Book My Show, Make My Trip, or PhonePe. So all of these are brands which are pretty much names which tell you what to do. Or acronym, which is simply a lengthier brand name, but to modernize it and to make it easier for people to remember it, simply converting that into an acronym. So Kentucky Fried Chicken, KFC, simply that. Suggestive brand names are some of the most popular ones in this day and age. It is simply a collection or a singular word. So a collection of word becomes a composite name. For example, Facebook, pin, so like a pin, and interest, so Pinterest. Or you can simply have a single word. So single word or composite word, that becomes your suggestive brand name. Associative brand name is a name which actually stands for something much bigger, a much bigger vision. For example, Apple. Now, Apple does not talk about the technology in the brand name, but it's referring to its simplicity and its foundation in science. Or for example, Sirius XM. So Sirius, if you don't know, is a star. It is, I think, one of the the brightest stars. So Sirius XM is actually talking about how brightly that star shines. Or Amazon. So think about a lot more names which are in the grand scheme of things. Brands which don't talk about your current stage, but what you eventually want to have an impact as. And the next one is your non-English names. These are simply names which have been derived or have been translated to some other languages, but are being spoken or used, or products which are sold all across the world. But the names are still being derived from other languages. And abstract. So these are words which don't have any inherent meaning to that. However, they simply rely on the phonetics of what that name sounds like. So Rolex, or Pepsi, or Kodak. So these names don't have inherent meaning. So these are the most easiest to make because you can simply, you don't have to depend on anything else. Simply depend on you simply have to depend on the sound of that name. But that phonetics actually tells the listener what sort of brand it is. It is a powerful brand. It's a luxury brand, Rolex. So all of that is what you have to do. Now, again, let's come back to the framework. At the competitors, like this stage where you have to map your competitor's name, what you have to do, simply collect all the names of your competitors and categorize them in these buckets. So that what will happen is you will realize that what is the name trend in your industry. Do people simply go with an eponymous brand? Do people simply go with a descriptive name? If you look at social media is full of, I think it's suggestive names. So Facebook, Insta, like instant, and Gram. So that is taken from photographs. Or LinkedIn, so that link part of it. Or MySpace, WeChat, WhatsApp. So for example, social media, most of them use suggestive names. So at this stage, what your plan is, you should identify what is the trend in your industry when it comes to names. And once you've done that, we'll move to step 3, which is creating a name dump for each category. So let's say you shortlisted 3 categories which are really popular in your industry. At this stage, start thinking of names within that category for your company. And a pro tip is to use ChatGPT or AI tools to do the same. So imagine you have shortlisted 3 categories in the last step. So simply come up with 10 to 15 names for each category. This will give you somewhere around 30 to 45 names which are suited for your industry. And yeah, feel free to use AI, ChatGPT. You won't believe the amazing results you can get through that in a matter of seconds. And once you've done that, we'll move to step 4, which is checks. At this stage, it's necessary to make sure that you have the logos which nobody can object upon, or names which stand the test of time. So there are 3 checks which we take a client through whenever we have to think about the brand name, which is legal check, industry check, and cultural check. So legal check, pretty self-explanatory. Hire a lawyer, hire an agency that can do the background research to see that is this name available to be registered. So that's pretty self-explanatory. Industry check is a interesting one. Basically, at this stage, what you have to do is make sure that your name does not resonate with any other industry leader within your ecosystem. So for example, if let's say you are a chocolates brand or a confectionery brand, then make sure you're not having the word bury or cad, or like those sort of parts in your name, because then people would think that you're trying to replicate Cadbury. Or if, for example, Kinder Joy, the brand name Kinder Joy. If there is another brand which releases something which has the phrase, or like not the phrase, but the sound Kinder, then to a listener, it might sound that you're trying to rip off that brand name, and it can lead to other challenges as well. So make sure that these things are not happening. And so you have to make sure that that's not happening in your industry. And the last one is cultural check. Basically, if you're planning to expand globally or venture into other countries as well, then make sure that your name does not sound or does not mean something bad in their language. So if your name is, I don't know, if your name is IKEA, then make sure IKEA does not mean something negative in other cultures or in other countries that you're planning to expand into. So all of these things have to be ensured at the checking stage. Now, the best part is once you have done these checks, you would have come up with, so let's see, so you had 30 to 45 names. You did these checks. At this stage, you would have, let's say 10 brand names, 8 to 10 after these checks. Once this is done, then you can actually use these 8 to 10 names. But there is a secret bonus that I want to share with you. That is what makes a brand name great compared to simply good is these three things. So make sure, like not exactly make sure, but see if you can do that, which is have a name which only has 2 to 3 syllables. So IKEA, Nike, Adidas. So 2 syllables or 3 syllables. These sort of brand names are the most memorable one. So Kinder Joy, MDH, IKEA, Nokia, Apple. So 2 to 3 syllables is the ideal space for a listener to memorize your name. And the next one is spelling. Once you have the brand names, one thing which you can do, which I suggest all of our clients, is to tell that brand name to somebody who has never heard of that name before and ask them to spell it to see what do people, like how would people type that on their keyboard in case they want to search for your brand. So for example, your brand name is Nokia. See if people are spelling it as KIA, KIYA, CIA. But there are so many, like it's crazy. Like when we venture out and when we work with bigger brands, we have to make sure that people are able to spell the brand properly. But a lot of startups slip out on this step. So make sure whenever you tell a brand name to a stranger, they're able to spell the name correctly. So do a spell test as well. And the last but not the least is domain test. So make sure that whatever name you create, or the name that you come up with, it has a .com or a simpler domain extension available for it. Or else it becomes a challenge and you have to eventually find a loophole around what sort of website domain you can have. But if you're able to find a .com for your name, it's great. It's amazing. And that pretty much leads us to step 6, which is your final brand name. So you had your 30 to 45 names in the name dump. You did the checks. You had around 10. You did the bonus testing. Now you have around 2 to 3. Now feel free to use any of these 2 to 3 brand names as your final company name and you're good to go. And that's pretty much it. These are the actual steps that we take our brand naming clients through to take them from not having a brand name to having a brand name which is memorable as hell. So I hope this was useful to all of you. And if it was, do let me know. And yeah, looking forward to seeing you in the next video or probably working with you as well. Thank you so much.